anymore. So let me do this. Okay. So just let me know when you can see it in the screen. Sure.
Yes, yes, I can see it.
All right. We're back. Okay. So yeah. So I think this will then give us a clear indication on what we then need to do, right? And why we then do it, because it talks to the material variance. So if then, so we'll deal with the exam technique tomorrow. Because you guys, when you now have a lot of information, you get confused, but the basics are still the basics. So the good thing about costing is that you won't have, it's not complicated, it's basic principles. So I know what I need to do, I understand what I need to do, then I'm done. They'll just then give you a lot of principles maybe in one question, and then you can't maneuver through it, but then the principles remains the same. So like everything remains the same. All right, so let's then go through the scenario. So CA Limited sells alpha, so that's the product alpha. And then each product weighs 1 kg, right? So each product weighs 1 kg. When I started, I said you then need to know your units, because in costing, this can be confusing as well. So 1 unit weighs 1 kg. The production process of alpha, which is then the unit or what we are producing, requires two inputs. We need beta and we need vega, right? So B and V are then the two inputs that we then need. So think about a car, the seat, type A, type B, and then we spoke about it when we were then determining that, right? And then we budgeted to produce 8.5 alpha units. This is tricky because budgeted units, I need to use flexed. So this, if there's no use for it, then it means that I then need to make sure that I don't get confused here, right? But there might be a use for it, but if there's no use for it, remember when I do my variances, I can't use this because this is what I've budgeted, and the production has changed, like we said. Using a total of 32, 34,200 kgs on input of Vega. So remember they told us about beta and Vega, but here they're telling us that the input here of these units, which is then 34 point 34.2 is for Vega. So it means that if I then divide 34200 divided by this, I get my standard uh, material that I need to then put for 1 unit of alpha, right? You of Vega, sorry. So because they're saying 85, and then using a total of this. So if I then take my kgs, I divide by then this, I know that it means I take then that unit of kg to make that kg to make 1 unit of alpha if I divide the two. And then it comes here because Vega they didn't give us the kgs. Then the standard cost is provided. Oh, okay, good. They're giving me the standard costing. So they're saying I need 0.8 kgs, right? For me to then uh, for my beta it's 0.8, and then the price is then 30 per kg, right? Then I have this. Then for Vega, the kgs they didn't give me, they gave me the 50 per kg. But I know that if then I have 34 2000, which is required here, if I then divide this by this, I will then get this, and then you'll see on the solution. Then we have the actual information. So I have my standard, I have my actual. Sorry, mute. All right. Then the actual information I'm given here. So the management accounts of CA Limited revealed that the company spent an amount of 2.2 million on the acquisition of beta, right? So it means that then I purchased this 2.2, that's beta. The total purchase relating to Vega was 1.9. So they gave me the total purchase of the two. Alpha units you were produced, right? So yeah, a total of 8, 9, 300 were produced. This becomes very much important for my flexing, right? Other than this one. So you guys come the exam, if you use this one, I'll be very angry with you guys because I said we don't use the budget. We'll then flex that using the units that we actually produced. Then the production requirements were as follows, right? So we have the number of kgs of beta, which is 800 kg. This is what we have purchased. We have a number of kg of beta, which were utilized. We have number of Vega purchased, and we have a number of beta utilized. So I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna come here. So you guys can still see, né? So I'm told that I have to then do the pricing, all my material variants. So I know I have to deal with the pricing. I know I have to then deal with the quantity, with the sales mix, and with the with the yield. So my pricing, and like I said, if I'm then dealing with my pricing, it means that I'm saying what did I actually purchase, right? So what is my actual cost? So if I then go back to this example, we then say I need to first determine what was my actual, right? And then obviously with my actual, because now this I've purchased, I just want to compare my price. So I want to compare only my price. So I know I've purchased, I know I have then purchased, I've purchased 80 for beta, for example, right? So I know I've purchased 80 for beta, but because I've purchased 80 for beta, I will then keep that constant. And then I want to just determine the price to say, did we purchase it at our standard price? And if not, then why? Then we come with our reasons. So it means that for beta, we then have the actual. So we have beta here, the actual cost and the standard cost. The actual cost is, or the actual quantity becomes then the 80, right? So 80, 80 here. Then, because I'm not worried about if I utilized the correct amount of kgs, I'm worried about the price. So this then becomes 88, or how you can then do it, you can then say AP multiplied by AQ, you get that, and then SP multiplied by the quantity. But you can see that the quantity remains actual the same, and then we just compare the price, right? So then it means I'm then going to then come and then compare my price. So 80, 80. So what is then my price? I'm being told here that I'm doing beta now because I have two products. So beta, I know I purchased beta, it was 2.4. So if we then go here to actual information, the management accounts of CA Limited revealed that the company spent 2.2 million. So it means that this is the price that I purchased. So if I then divide the 2.2 with the amount of kgs, I then see how much was 1 kg, which is 28 rand, which gives me this total amount that I've spent, which is the 2.2. So then here I just divided what I divided now my total price and then the actual. So this is then the actual amount. Then I have then, and I should take off this so that we can then just discuss them. Then I have my standard. So my standard, I know I have to use my standard pricing. I know that the actual remains the same, what I've purchased. Then my standard then becomes the 30 per kg of beta because I was given the standard cost. So I can then compare this, and then I match them, and then I get this amount. So is this a favorable or unfavorable, and why? Anyone wants to go for it? All right. So
It's
guys,
favorable
it's
because
It's a
we
favorable.
spend less.
Favorable.
why? I want the why part.
We spend less than
That was
we
standard
budgeted.
cost. Okay.
Yeah.
You guys you didn't copy the favorable that was there, né? We'll see what will come
No.
the ones underneath. Okay. Yes. So it is because the standard cost and then this is then the same. Anyone who has an issue with this, how we calculated them. Say now or I will forever hold your peace. Anyone? Going once, twice. Good.
Hi, Amanda. Sorry.
Hello. Okay.
I just have a quick question, right?
Yes.
So, they by standard, it's
Sure.
not clear the color, it's pinkish. Did we use 30 or did we use 24?
So we used 30.
Okay.
So can you see? So the 30 is coming from here. 30 rand per kg.
Oh, okay, I see.
So
Okay,
remember,
thanks.
so the 24, remember now they multiply the 0.8
It's for the
kgs and
0.8. Yeah.
0.8,
Okay.
yes. And that's why I'm saying
Okay,
the measures
cool.
are very much important.
Mm,
And you need to know what you're calculating. So we want per kg, because remember this is the 8 rand per kg, so that's 30.
okay, thank you.
All right, sure. Then we do the same thing for Vega, right? So the same thinking. We purchase 35, we have 35 here, 35, 35. Then we have the 50 here per kg. And then we said we purchased Vegaka 1.9 million. So you then divide the two, you get the 55 here. This the price here, it's here. And then now, we spent more than what we were supposed to purchase. So this then becomes unfavorable, right? Because our standard cost is to say we normally spend 550 rands, but now you are spending 55 rands. So now the purchasing department, did you change the suppliers? Because this is not the norm. And this is what actually happened. So now it means you can then take this two, which then becomes the price, which we then add the two favorable and unfavorable, and then we get unfavorable, right? Because now it then gives us that negative, so we get unfavorable. All right, good. Price, easy, simple, done. Then let's go to the quantity now, right? So quantity, so quantity will then be. So let's start with beta. So let's go back. So quantity, I'm then now saying, and I came here. So I did actual. So my quantity, I'm then saying my standard price will be the same because I can't use actual, because if I use actual, again, actual has its own variances in terms of the price. And I want to deal only with the people who are using my material. So I've dealt with the people who bought them when I determine the price. So now let me remain with my standard price that I know. And then let me go to then my usage and then see the people who are using now without taking the price into account, whether they're doing the right things. So then it means my standard price, which is 30, which is then this standard price here, 30 per kg, which is the standard cost, remains the same because now I'm not dealing with the price. So I'm defaulting to what? To my standard cost. Then because I'm dealing with quantity, I'm going to focus on quantity. So we were told here to say beta, we utilized 75 kg. So it means that we then utilized 75 kg. Then my standard cost. So who wants to tell me how I'm going to calculate my standard cost for beta? So I have my price, my standard cost, my standard quantity, I mean. Who wants to tell me how I'm going to calculate my standard quantity for beta? Anyone wants to go for it?
Hello.
Yes, please.
Let's say it takes 0.8 kgs
Okay.
times 89,300 units.
Okay, but why am I using 89,300 units?
The actual number of units produced. So it takes 8 kgs to manufacture 1 unit.
Okay, yes. So very good. And that's what you do, right? So the 0.8 kg, I know I take 0.8 kg to then manufacture that unit. But then now I need to if I'm then talking about the usage and what people used, I can't then be talking the usage on what I've budgeted, which is not what is happening. I need to go to what I've produced and say, okay, I know I use 0.8, so let's then use what you have produced, right? Let's flex it to what you have produced so that I can then be in a position to say, after I flexed it, you used 775 for then the same the same number of kgs, right, that we need, or the same number of units. And what we normally use here is then this, which is then 71, what I will normally use. Because if I'm using the same 83, which is the output units, and I'm using my standard kgs that I will normally use, I will then normally use the 71 as compared to what you then use. So is this favorable or unfavorable? Guys, let's go. Favorable or unfavorable?
It is unfavorable
Yes.
because
Yeah, because
you had okay, if you are using according to the standard, you are going to use 71,440, but then now you used in actual fact you used 75,000 kgs. That's why it is unfavorable. You used more than you had
for the
budgeted.
same units, right?
For the same units, yes, for the same units.
Yes, for the same units. 100%. Thank you, sir. So yes, so this is now unfavorable. Before I continue, is there anyone who wants to come in and ask something? All good. All right. Then we go to then Vega, right? It's quantity. So if I'm saying it's quantity, I'm not worried about the price. So I can't use actual price because actual price has its own variances. There's changes, they went to the wrong suppliers. So I'm keeping it with my standard price. So I'm gonna say these are my standard price. I'm gonna then take to talk to the actual usage. So my standard price here was 50, which is then the 50 for what? For Vega. So we use 50. Then my usage here becomes 33,000, right? So 33,000 will then be my actual. But I know that my kgs that I need. So that's why I'm saying now, in terms of kg, I can then go back to this amount and then I say, I know this amount of units of 85,500 will use 34 kgs. So if I then come and divide 34 by 8.5, I'll get the number of units that I then, of kgs rather, that I then need for Vega to then get 1 unit. So it means I can then come and divide the 34 by the 855, which is this one, right? To then get the unit. So I'm not using that to calculate my variances. I'm using it to then say, because when you budgeted, you know how many kgs you use for a unit. So I just want that to say how many kgs you use for a unit. Then I will then take that kg and then I will go then flex it with what I actually used for my units, the actual amounts to then get then the quantity. And then now the quantity then becomes the 0.4 that will then calculate, multiply by the 89300, which is then the actual unit to then get this amount. And then I can then say my standard is 35. You used 33 for the same quantity. So I can then say you were productive in terms of the usage because you used less when we are dealing with the same unit. So this then becomes favorable. Any questions? All good. We're all happy.
No, I'm
Yes.
not happy, sir.
I want those who are not happy. Come through.
Yes.
Sure.
The first sentence of the information, it told us that it says there's 1 kg produces 1 unit, 1 alpha unit. Then they go further to tell us that they use beta and vega for producing an alpha unit. Now, I was of the view that the mix of a beta and a vega should give us 1 kg. But now I see that I got it wrong. If you can just please explain to me why are we the process of dividing the 34,200 by 85,500 to get that 0.40, because my thought process was that since the beta is using 0.8 kgs, I was going to take the difference between 1 kg and 0.8 kgs to allocate that to Vega.
Okay, so you're gonna say Vega is 0.2 kgs.
Yes, yes.
Okay. So if we then add 0.4 and 0.8 and 0.4, that's 1.2. So you are not really satisfied with that. They should have just said
Yes.
1.2. Okay, I hear you.
Yes.
I hear you. So the 1 kg, remember, so it's 1.2 when you add both of them, right? So I mean 1.2 it's 1 kg, but then okay, let's leave that. However, what you then needed to do, so instead of minusing, you then needed to go back and say, yes, they told me about 1 kg, right? And then it could have been 1.1, it could have been 1.2. That's fine. But I then need to go back and read further. And here I'm being told to say, CA budgeted to produce 85. So this is the total unit that I've budgeted. And then I budgeted using this, which is then 34,200, meaning I can't then just say 0.1 minus 0.8 to get 1 exactly, right? I then need to then still do this calculation and then just get the right amount, because the 1 maybe they were then just rounding it off to 1, the 1.2, but I still need to then say, if from these 85 units, I need 34 kgs of Vega for all these units, then it means I can then determine to say for 1 unit, how many kgs of Vega do I need? So I still need to do this calculation, and this reading this needed to prompt you. So maybe if this sentence was not there, I will then say I agree with you, then go take 0.8 and 0.2. But then this line that came here needed to then prompt you to then calculate, because you can't then just say, now I'm gonna minus and then not confirm by dividing this. So if this was not there, I agree with you.
Oh, okay.
Yes, but you then needed to then check to say, okay, they gave me the total units of kgs of alpha. They gave me the kgs that are needed. Then let me determine my kg that I need from 1 unit of alpha. Then it's 1.2, right? And then it's 0.4. 0.4 and 0.8 is 1.2, right? It's still 1 kg. So if this was not here, I would agree that you can then just minus. But then if then this was here, you then need to still go and then make that test and then get that amount.
Right. Okay. Okay. I think I see it. Thank you.
All right.
Hi, Manda.
Yes. Yes,
Before
ma'am.
you proceed, Ish, I also need assistance. Hey,
No, come through, come through.
I'm confused. Hey, I see how you got the 0.4 for which one is that? Is
For
that
Vega.
Vega?
Yes.
Yes, but I just needed to understand the thought process as to which one goes up and which one goes down. I mean the denominator and the numerators, like
Oh, okay. Sure. All right. So here, so they told us that what are the units for alpha? So the units for alpha, they say for us to produce 85,500 units of alpha, right? We need how many kgs of Vega? We need 34 kgs, 34,200 of Vega, right? So so 34,200 kgs, sorry. So these are then the kgs, total kgs that I need to produce to produce all this amount of Vega. So if I then come and then do my maths and I say, I want to know how many kgs should one then produce in 1 unit of 1 unit of alpha, right? So what I then need to do is to then say, I have my total kg here. So if I then come and divide my total kg by the number of units, I then get the kg for every unit that is then needed. Meaning that if I then divide the 2 and I get 0.4, ne? So this is the 0.4 per kg for 1 unit. So if I then say I now produce 8,500 units and I want to know the kgs that I need, then it means that I will then just multiply this by then the 0.4 and then I'll get the total number of kgs. So it takes it takes 4 to get this. Then you can then make do the cross multiplication of saying 1 kg to 1 unit, then you divide, then you get the amount. I'm not sure if I'm explaining it right. Are you fine?
Yeah, yeah, I
Sure.
think.
No, I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced.
No, you know what?
Yeah.
I'm doing a lot of processing, of this information.
Sure.
But I think I'm gonna come out right because okay, now you said the kgs. We are looking for the kgs, so the total
Yes.
number of the kgs will be the numerator.
Correct. And then the denominator will be the units. So I'm dividing the units. So I'm saying in this kg, I divide the units. Then I'm seeing the number of kgs in 1 unit that is there.
Yeah, thank you. It makes sense. It's just a matter of one getting used to doing
Process it.
this.
Yeah, process it nicely and then say kg and then unit. You should be fine. But we should then divide this by. It's like if you then have total cost. So let's come to this. So this is the total cost, and then this is then the kg that we have bought. So if I'm then taking my total cost and my kg, and I want to know how many 1 kg costs here, I'm going to then come and take the 2.2 and divide by the 80 kg, right? To say that for one kg, it costs this much, right? Just like here. So we took the 2.2, we divided the 2.2 by the 80 kg to say that, okay, the what do you call it? Then the total cost divided by the actual cost here then gives us what? Gives us then the number or the cost per kg. So same thing here. It gives us the kg per unit. But think about it. Think about it, and then you will then say, if you don't get it, let's discuss it tomorrow morning.
No,
Happiness.
thank you. Thank you.
Amanda.
I'll be fine.
All right.
Can I just get a formula to calculate standard quantity? Just that, the
So
standard quantity.
you saying can you get or can you
Like a
give
formula to just explain the thought process of getting the standard quantity.
of getting the standard quantity? This one.
Yes, just the units, not really the variance. Just because I normally use the formula actual quantity minus standard quantity times standard rate. So I just forgot how to get like a standard quantity.
All right. So you're talking about this formula. You normally use this formula. So actual quantity minus standard quantity multiplied by standard price.
Yes, standard price. Yeah, I just want to know how to calculate the standard quantity.
Okay. So actual quantity we know, right? Standard quantity, you then go and take your standard quantity or standard not price, then your standard kgs. I want to go back to that thing. Your standard kgs, and then you multiply that with the actual.
Okay, but that's sorry. So we take the standard quantity. No, standard kgs.
Yes, to produce one quantity. And then you multiply it by then the units, because you are trying to then see how many kgs how many kgs or quantity did we then use.
Okay, yes,
so you're going to take the 0.4 that is here, or the 0.8, multiply by then the units to then get the kgs in standard usage or standard material. Yes, so you're going to then do that.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, guys, just 5-10 minutes, we are done, right? So let's go now to the difficult ones, right? So the formula, again, you can use the formulas here. If you then use the formulas, I'm going to explain. Mine is just to explain why we have the following formulas and then why it works like this, right? So the formulas are here. You can then use the formulas and then you then calculate if that's easy for you guys, right? But the thinking behind it is this. So like I said, I'm going to go back to this, right? So you have 5 kg, you have 10 kg, and then this is then the standard mix that you have, which is the standard, right? I know I put 5 of type A, I put 10 of type B. and then I have this as my mix. So this becomes my mix. And then if this change, this becomes my yield. So if this is my mix, I then need to say, all right, what is then my actual units that I then I then used, right? So my actual units, and then I then need to use the actual at the mix, right? So this then becomes my actual mix now. So it becomes the new one, right? So like we have the standard one that we use. Now we have the new one, which are the actuals. So now I then need to then use this actual to then to then determine my mix. So let's go back to the example. So what I'm going to then do, I'm then going to say, all right, what is my standard mix that I normally need? And my standard mix that I normally need is then 0.8 and 0.4 to make 1 unit of alpha. That is the standard mix that I know, to say that I take 0.8 kg and 0.4 to then make 1 kg, right? So this means that this here and I'm here. So this becomes my mix to say 0.4 and 0.8, I get 1.2, and then I get my standard mix to say that for me to then do 1 alpha, this is the mix of the 2 products that I need. And then beginning when I talked about the mix, I says it's interchangeably. So you can exchange it, right? You can use one and the other, but you still have the same product. So it means that this mix might not be what we are then having here as our actual, right? So that's the first thing. I go and then I determine my mix, which is then this one here, right? Then I go for my actual now, what I've used. So I then know that for beta, I've used the 75,000. And then for Vega, I've used 33,000. So I'm expecting to say, hold on, this should then be in proportion to my mix, right? So this is what I used actually, but because I know my standard mix is 0.8 and 0.4, this must be in proportion to my mix, right? So what do I then do? I then go here and then flex this in. So the same amount that I've used, I'm like, okay, this is my total. I know that for me to get this total, I need this mix. So I'm going to then check if that's the mix that I then got. Then I go take this total. I multiply by the 2 mix here, right? So the total is still the same. You can see I'm only determining my mix if I then use my standard mix that I know. I then go take the total. I multiply this with then the 66 because that should then be my mix, right? If I have my total kgs, I then need to know that, okay, because my standard mix is saying this, then that should then be my mix. Then my mix here becomes 72, and then my mix here becomes 36. It means now my mix have been changed from the standard mix that I know, because this is the actual, which then is the new mix. But I know that my standard mix is this one, so I can use the total amount to then get this. So then this then becomes my my actual mix, and this becomes my mix as per my standard proportions. Did you guys get that concept then? So maybe let me just go. So let's don't take this into account. So we're still in this 2. Then it means if I'm then getting my mix, I'm then gonna take the 75. That is then the actual or the new mix, if you may put it that way, minus my standard or the actual multiplied by the standard mix that I know this should then be like, this should be like this, right? If we're doing 108, we should have this mix because this is my standard mix. Then I'm gonna minus the 75 with the 2, then I get the 3, and then the standard price remains the same. So the standard price, remember, I'm checking the mix. So I don't want to put the actual price. I'm still doing quantity. So just like I do the normal quantity and the standard price remains the same. So it means even here, because this is an extension of the usage variance of the quantity variance, meaning that this then still remains the same, right? And then I minus then the actual minus then the total on the proportion of standard mix, then I get the 92. 15,000 here. And then do the same here with then the standard, I get 15,000. Are we now all good?
Now, what are we comparing? Are we still comparing like the flexed rates with the actual, and then the flexed? What did we use to get them?
Okay. Okay. Sure. So here. So let's go back. So what we are doing, we have calculated the price, and then we have calculated the quantity, right? So the quantity, now you know that the quantity is unfavorable, but you then still need to determine more information. Is it unfavorable because we now change the mix that we normally use? So we used more of beta than vega than what we normally use? Or is it because we used more materials to still yield the same uh, output? So now our yield have changed. So remember back then I said, if I take 4 oranges to then fill a cup, and now I take 5 oranges to still fill the same output, it means my yield changed. So now I want to determine, is that the cause, or is the cause the mix of the two? But if I then add both of these, they should go back to my quantity variance. So these two are then an extension of the quantity variance. So they're just then going deep and then talking about the quantity variance. Sharp. Then, yeah.
Yes, I'm following.
Yes.
Sorry.
Okay, yes. Then we then go to say, okay, these are the extension. So when we add this, we need to go back to the quantity because we're just going deeper into the quantity. Then let's start with our mix. So what is then our mix? So in the standard setting, I will then know to say on a normal basis, when I then do 1 unit of this product, I know I mix product A and I mix product B. So that's my standard mix. I will mix 40% of product A and I will mix 40% of product B. That is my standard mix. So that is then the first thing that you then need to think about. So you then need to come back here and say, when I produce 1 unit of alpha, it means it needs 0.8 kg of beta and it needs 0.4 kg of vega to give me 1 unit of alpha. So that's the mix of the two products. So I'm mixing the two products. That's what I know, right? So I don't
Standard wise.
expect, sorry?
Standard wise.
Yes, standard wise. So
Yes.
I don't expect someone to come and then start changing my mix now, unless it's going to be favorable to me, right? Because we know that standard wise, these are our mix. We mix beta 0.8, we mix vega 0.4 to get 1 unit. So it means that standard wise, this is my sales or my standard mix. The 0.4 and 4, and then I get 6.6 and then 33%. This is my standard mix for 1 unit of alpha. We're still together.
Yes.
Sure. Then, okay, now I want to compare if my mix have changed. So now I'm going to go to the actual figures. And what I expect to see in the actual figures, I expect to then see the usage of the kgs still in this mix, because that's what my standard mix is. So I'm now going to then say, let me compare my actual kgs and then see if it's still in the same mix as my standard mix. Still together.
Yes, sir, we are.
Sure. Then my actual here becomes 75, and so my actual becomes this, which is then 75 and so which is then 75 and 30, right? So this then becomes my actual, which is what I used fairly. So the 75 kg and then the 33 kg. So that's my actual. So in my mind, I'm then saying, so if this is my actual kgs that I used, and the total is 108, right? For those units, I then expect to then see, in terms of the mix, my standard mix, to still have 75 here and 33 here. Then I'm gonna say the mix was not changed, right? We're still together.
Yes, we are.
So it means that I then need to see that. And how do I see that? I need to then take my total kgs that I used to produce those units. And when I take then my total, I then now need to multiply by my standard that I know, which is then the 66 and then the 33. So the output is still the same, but I want to confirm if then the way that I am, so the way that I'm mixing is still the same. So I then multiply this by this and this. So you see that the mix have changed.
Yes.
So then I can compare the actual and the actual in standard proportion mix, and I multiply it by my standard price. So I can then say the 3,000 will then be the 75 minus the 72 multiplied by the standard price, because remember we're doing a quantity variant. It's still an extension of a quantity. And if it's a quantity, we say we don't want to worry about the actual price. So we still keep our standard price. So I'm going to then come here and then take the difference between these two, multiply with the quantity price, take again the difference between these two, multiply with the quantity price, then I get my variance, which will then be the cost as a result of the mixing.
Okay. Okay. Makes sense.
All good.
Oh, good.
Happiness for
Hi,
everyone.
sir.
Yes, come through.
No.
Sure.
How are you?
Good.
I don't understand how we got the percentages there. You see by standard
Okay.
meat data figure,
Yes.
66.67 and the 33.33%.
Okay. Sure. All right. So basically how we got this, we then said for us to produce one alpha, right? Which is 1 unit of what we are doing. So if we go back to the example that I did here. So I said we produce a
Yeah.
car seat. So if we're producing a
Mhm.
car seat, maybe we need a certain type of cotton, right? So let's
Okay.
call it a form A. And then we need the one of B, which is 10 kg to make the car seat. So it means that
Yeah.
if I want to take my sales, I will then say in total, I want 15. So the 5 divided by 15 will then be the percentage of A. The 10 divided by 15 will
Oh,
then be the percentage of B. So if we then go back to the example, we need 0.8 kg to make one alpha, and we need 0.4 to make one alpha. So you can then come and then say, okay, that's my standard. Then I can take the 0.4 and the 0.8, get the 1.2, and then do my proportions.
okay, now I understand.
Sure.
I follow.
Any other
Thank you.
question? All right. No other question. Sharp. Then it means that that's what we do. That's the thinking. So when you think about the sales mix, first think about the standard mix and then take the actuals and then see, okay, this is the total of the actual. Let me see if then the proportion is still the same using my standard mix. Then you can compare that. You can compare the actual and the actual in standard mix. Sharp. Then we go to the yield. And then now the yield, I'm going to go back to the example. So I said we use 5 kg to make these cassettes. And then we use type A, we use type B. And this is then our standard. And then now, if we then go change then our mix, and then as a result of that, it changes the total kg that we normally need, because we know we need 15 kg to yield one unit. Now we are using 15.5 yield 1 unit, meaning our yield now have changed, right? So our yield have changed. So what are we then comparing? So what we then going to then compare, right? So we then going to then go back. So if you then go to the quantity, this is what we actually need, right? So this is what we then actually need for our standard price. So the standard price, if we then multiplying by the by the actuals, so this then becomes what we will then need in terms of the standard price, in terms of our units that we'll then need. So we're going back to take these amounts here, which is then the quantity for standard that we'll then use for our standard, right? Now, I'm then saying to say this now here becomes then the new mix that is then there. But then now this new mix, I will then have expected it to then give me these amounts as my standard proportion. But then you can see that if I then do that, these have changed, which is then the total units or the total yield that is then needed to make the same unit. Meaning now I'm then going to then compare then my sales mix. So remember when I came here, I said that the yield here changed because of now the sales mix that we're then having. So I'm now going to then compare my my actual at then the sales mix or the standard mix based on then what should then have been there as a quantity. Then I then get my yield, which will then be the difference between this, and then again multiply by this standard price, because the standard price still remains, because remember we are doing we are doing a quantity variance. Happiness, oh, you guys are tired now. I guess still there, 37. You guys are tired. Did you get it? That one, the yield.
Yes.
All right, sure. So go do this, and then if again you are having issues, so the formulas are there. I just wanted to show you to say sometimes the information becomes a lot, and that's then my. So sometimes me when I do these questions, the information becomes a lot. So even when I have my formula, I get confused with a lot of information. But if you then go back to say what is really a mixed variance, right? And then you understand that, it means even the information that you are reading, you can then use it to advantage when you are then doing the formula, because you understand what I'm looking for when I'm looking at my mix. All right, let me not talk any further. Any questions before we finish?
So with regards to sales mix and sales yield variance, will this be the same way? Like
So
if you're selling multiple products?
so there will be a bit of difference, right? And again, the first thing I think that you then need to think about is to say, one, which system do we use? Do we use absorption costing, or do we use variable costing? Because now if we are using absorption costing, you're going to then do your variances based on the gross margin. And if you use the variable
Yeah.
costing system, you're going to use contribution,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes.
Yes. So in terms of then the mix, it will then be the same, but now we're going to then use the contributions that we are then having there. So but you know what I can do now, because I know that is, I wanted to touch on that today and I couldn't because of the time. I will, after doing the question tomorrow, we'll touch on the sales variants, because those are the two
Okay.
variants that I know they have a problem. The others, the labor and all those things, I know you guys can then be fine doing those, but the materials, it's a problem, and the sales is a problem. So we're gonna address the sales tomorrow.
Yeah, because even the way I understood your material yield variances rather was it's actually the output, no, I mean the input in terms of your resources, like your in this instance your raw material, and then versus the output that you get in terms of the unit that you're producing.
Yes, yes,
Yeah, that's literally how I understood it.
yes. All good. Any other question? Nothing. We can go to sleep now. All right. If yeah, someone wants to talk.
Now, I just want to say I finally understood the flexible budget. So you don't
Yes,
need to
yes.
find another.
Finally.
It took time, guys, but
Finally.
I've
Okay. Yeah.
reached.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. So guys, tomorrow let's do the question so that it can go faster, and then we can touch the price as well. Because if it doesn't, if we don't do it, then it means we take time again on the question. So let's go read. If at least you don't get time, read through the question, read through the required, think about how you would have addressed it, and then we're going to talk more about exam techniques as well tomorrow. But yeah, if there's nothing else, then good night to everyone. We are done.
Yeah, I think can we just touch again on the yield tomorrow, because I'm still not getting it correct. But
Yes, please.
On the yield.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Sharp.
Sorry, guys, where's the question that we're doing tomorrow? Is it uploaded on the OneDrive?
Yes, it's up on the OneDrive.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, sure. No problem. We'll start on the yield then. Other than that, all right. Bye, everyone. Let's go sleep.
Bye. Thank you.
It's late.
Thank you very much, sir. Bye.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Bye. Bye.